So I'd like to welcome Allyson King from 360 Beauty and just discuss some of some of the problems around hair color profitability and just running a successful business. Hi, Allyson. How are you today?
Hey, it's great to see you.
You as well. So yeah, I just wanted to just follow up on I guess both of our conversations and just to take it a little bit of a deeper dive. I know you have two successful salons in Brooklyn, Hair and Co. Brooklyn. How long have you had those salons?
Our first salon opened just over 5 years ago.
Excellent. And I know it's been pretty crazy times just going through COVID, but I've touched on this a little bit at my conversation, but the hair color business has always been a bit chaotic and has always been very challenging to run a profitable business. What are some of the biggest challenges you've had? Because I know you do consulting, but some of the biggest challenges you've had around your color business.
I think at Hair & Co. Brooklyn, the challenges we've always had is knowing, are we priced right, right? Are our services really profitable? And, we've gone through strategies when we look at pricing to see what our competition does or see what the vendor says the cost per application is. But what we've kind of learned over time based on different services is how do we ensure that everything we do is profitable? And I think that's been one of the biggest challenges for us. In addition to waste, I mean, that always drives a salon owner crazy when you see how much is going down the drain. And really managing that as well, because who wants to chase their team around about color bowls, right? None of us. But I think those things, particularly after going through COVID, is how do we have clarity in what we're using, what we're spending, and what we're charging? And I think those have been some of the struggles that we've had pre-COVID, but then have become, something with like the magnifying glass on now that we're reopened.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there that really stood out to me. I mean, one is that people typically price their services on what the competition is doing, which is what like kind of the industry has always relied upon is what should I be charging in my region. But I know you use Gold Wall Color, which is, it can be more expensive than some of these cheaper lines out there, and it gives a better result than some of the cheaper color lines. And, rent isn't equal and there's a lot of different variables that aren't equal, so it's really difficult to price your services. So you know we
Yeah.
got into our business for that reason, was of course the hair color waste, but then also to streamline profitability in the hair salon industry. And we discussed this, but when COVID happened right away, the bells went off and I was like, okay, looking at the data that we have, I know that is going to change the way that change the profitability in a drastic way when customers start to come back. What happened to you in that transition period? Like, what was your biggest, I guess, fear? Okay, it's a go. Yes, we have to deal with reopening at some point, but what do we do when we reopen? And with the razor thin margins, are they still going to be there once we reopen and all these guests start coming back after 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, Shannon and I had lots of discussions with this. We closed around March 17th. And by March 19th, we had everything tied up with a little bow to be closed for a while. And, I think our biggest fear in reopening was the unknown, right? Like, how long would we close? Would we get rent relief? What if 25% of our clients never came back? I mean, one of the biggest challenges we have in New York City is people have left for the suburbs, upstate, and everywhere else, right? Because we had such a um, concentrated COVID experience, right? And so we really started to block and tackle and say, well, what if we're going to have to get a loan? What if, we were prepared with savings, but who prepares for this, right? And when the savings is spent, then what happens, right? And how do we stay afloat long term? And so we really had to start looking at our business differently and start being open to things that potentially were cool ideas, but it was time to rip off the Band-Aid. And for us, looking at how we charged and looking at how we effectively made sure pricing led to profits became really important to us. And your tool really gave us a lot of flexibility to be able to look at, whether it was our traditional strategy, which is what we did prior to COVID, and really looking at, based on how much they use, Then when they go over standard mix, they get a product charge, right? Just like we do with our extra bowl charge or things like that we've traditionally done. But then you've also have so many other layers to it, to maybe charging clients completely for the product that we're using. And to a point you made, when we switched, when we went live with you guys, right after June 22nd, when we opened, I think the amount of data you gave us to really understand what things were costing us was just insane. And I know we joked about, well, it was not really a joke, but joked about our experience around fashion color. Our Clinton Hill location is
Yeah.
right school, and we do so much fashion color. And I happened to be there one day when we were ringing out one of our clients who got rainbow hair, literally, not just one color, but literally the rainbow. And we used $40 worth of color on her. And that wasn't what we charged her. It was just, that's how much we dispensed.
And which is so, it's not uncommon, but it gets buried in the cost sometimes, because some of those applications, like your highlighting applications, maybe only cost you $3 or $4 per application. And if you lump them all together, which everybody typically did, your average cost per application is not that bad.
Yeah.
What has been the staff's reaction to changing this into more of a, I guess it's a two-part question, to adding the product fee, especially when they use a significant amount, and then not getting commission on that? Has that been a tough sell, or do they understand that, you've got all of these additional expenses to keep the business open?
That's a great question, because I think, prior to COVID, we've been exploring this for a year. We looked at some of your competition. We were trying to get really smarter with the cost per application that our manufacturers were giving us. And, we always are like, oh, the team's going to hate it. It's going to take longer. It's going to, all those things, every excuse that we all always have, right? I got to tell you, it was easy. It was 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks for the team to get super savvy and understand how it works and why. And to now, like, we used to have them write their formula on a traveler. We put it in the system to get fast enough that the experience didn't feel like it took any longer. We're just doing it in a different way, right? Yeah. And what I also loved is your reweigh feature. We've got 2 stylists that, no matter what I do, use way too much color.
Of course.
Well, now I don't have to chase them. Part of the process is to reweigh. They go reweigh. We don't ever have to talk about you use too much, because your system automatically recalibrates the formula for us. Nobody wants to do math. And now the next time the client comes in, we only use what we needed the first time. And that's amazing, because that's one less thing that we have to manage. As long as we teach them in the process to reweigh, you do that work for us, and that is magical. And while you didn't ask this part, I'm going to add the client in, if you don't mind. They love it, which surprised me. It's transparent. They get it, right? And it feels like it's precise and scientific and fair. And we haven't had one client have an issue with it.
And that's been our aim. And when I was speaking to a lot of salon owners, even people that were thinking about our technology, I participated in a couple of webinars, was that most people's strategies was just do an arbitrary price increase, and basically penalizes your guests that come back every 6 weeks, and probably doesn't charge enough for your guests that go 12 weeks out. So it's, I know you do a lot of consulting as well. What has been the biggest problem with the salons you've seen since they've reopened?
Profitability, right? There are not many, we have clients all across the country, and I think there are not many, there are some, but there are not many that aren't experiencing less clients than they had before, right? They had a big rush when they reopened, and now things have gotten quieter. And so, I think arming us with a tool that allows us to bring more profitability to the business. I mean, the reality is, we're bringing an additional $1,000 to $1,500 in non-commissionable revenue a week, in how we've chosen to do the pricing strategy. And that's making a huge difference. I mean, you asked what our team thought about it. You know what? Our team's glad to have a job. We're having salons close, and they understand that as a business, to remain profitable, we have to make some choices, and we're completely transparent with them about it. I think because we were transparent, because we work through the process together and they understand it, we've been able to take, and what we've recommended to clients is the revenue that we're making now with Vish, we're putting back into our working capital account, or kind of our save to spend account, so that if we have to shut down again, we've been able to rebuild some of that savings. Because the reality where I am, we may have one of our locations that's getting shut down on Friday.
Let's hope
We're
it doesn't happen.
somewhere that where the border might be, but it's close. And we've been open 13, 14 weeks. If we take that $1,000 to $1,500 a week just for that location that we've been able to put aside, that's going to make a difference if we have a short shutdown.
It's amazing. And, you mentioned a couple of things there, but that's the beauty of data, is that you have transparency. Because if your staff have questions, like, why are you charging this? Well, here it is. And then same thing with your customers, you can show them the data. Whether you use our system or another system, or you do this manually, data definitely makes it a lot easier, because you're making decisions just based on numbers, and there's no ambiguity there. And, we won't keep you anymore. We really appreciate your time today. But what we would really love to do as we continue to grow is to establish better benchmarks for the industry. So one size doesn't fit all. So we're really, really excited to continue to work with you. And you have a lot more experience, obviously, in the running of a business. We're the numbers geeks behind the color business, but hopefully you don't close down. And if you do, we're here to support you. And thanks again. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
Well, it's our pleasure. We wish you the best of luck. And again, thank you for giving us a tool that's giving great clarity to our business now that we've reopened.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You got it. Have a great day. See you guys.